In May this year, the Victorian Auditor-General's Office tabled public participation and community engagement in the local government sector. Public participation is an increasingly recognised as an essential part of government at all levels, including local government. Incorporating public input into government decision-making can provide insights into possible problems and risks during project planning and ensures that community concerns are taken into account. This results in decisions that are more likely to be widely accepted and deliver good results. Often we're asked, why did you choose an audit topic? Why did you focus on this? So the reason that we focused on this was that we found 30% of our performance audits, or 84 in total, identified inadequate or ineffective public participation in the public sector. This can affect the public sentiment about government transparency and accountability. In this audit, we examined how well LGV supports public participation across councils, the effectiveness of community engagement and participation at the local government level. We specifically examined councils' public participation processes for significant activities such as developing the council budget and council plan and major investment decisions. Alongside LGV, we selected 6 councils to audit. Councils we audit generally have frameworks needed to undertake better practice consultation. However, they don't always apply these tools, and this has resulted in relatively low levels of satisfaction that communities express about their public participation. We also found that Local Government Victoria demonstrates better practice in its own public participation activities. However, the support and guidance it provides to councils isn't sufficient. We found that in carrying out its own activities, LGV demonstrated that better practice through the review of the Local Government Act, the development of the Victorian Aboriginal Local Government Action Plan, the Local Government Model Financial Report, and the Geelong Citizens Jury. However, LGV needs to provide greater support to councils in the form of guidance and support on when and how to carry out public participation activities. LGV coordinates a statewide local government community satisfaction survey. In the survey, councils are given a rating out of 100 for their community's satisfaction with their consultation and engagement efforts. In 2015-16, the average score for all Victorian councils was 55 out of 100. A survey score of between 50 and 60 is rated as performing satisfactorily, however, needs to improve. Considering the relatively low scores, LGV should analyse the data and develop resources and initiatives to support councils. With public participation policies and frameworks, we found that all 6 councils we audited have a public participation policy or framework, and 5 were informed by the IAP2 principles. 5 councils also have public participation guides or handbooks, but their content and quality vary considerably. We concluded that 3 of the 6 councils, Ballarat, Cardinia and Maribyrnong, should review their public participation policies and staff guides to include more better practice elements. Common elements missing including details of when, how and who to engage, an outline of roles and responsibilities and the resources needed to conduct the activities successfully. To address these findings, we recommended all councils assess their public participation policies and resources against the IAP2 model, update them as necessary, and promote their use amongst staff. It's important that councils clearly document public participation activities as they would for any other project. The plan should provide an end-to-end roadmap for implementation with a description of the planned objectives and scope right through to how the activity will be evaluated. We examined one activity undertaken by all 6 councils, and we found the Maroondah plan for the Maroondah housing strategy ticked all 6 key elements. It had well-identified objectives and scope of public participation. It identified the affected community. It identified the resources and the time that was required. The plan was customised to the activity being undertaken. The plan was implemented as described, and there was an evaluation of the public participation activity. We examined where the councils monitor and evaluate their public participation activities. 5 councils included the essential elements of monitoring and evaluation in their public participation policies. However, they did not have sufficient guidance on how to apply them. In practice, monitoring and evaluation at the councils is mostly based on quantitative measures, such as the number and type of public participation events, the number of participants, and social media statistics. We found that few projects are evaluated using qualitative information gathered through the stakeholder feedback process. Overall, the council projects we examined lacked sufficient documentation on the public participation activity and evaluation data. As a result, these councils were not able to measure the value of their public participation activities. Councils have a statutory obligation with regard to public participation in the council budget. These obligations are to put the budget on public display, call for submissions through a public notice, allow community members to make a submission, and allow community members to address the council at a meeting. There are similar obligations relating to the council plan. We found that all councils have fulfilled their statutory obligations for public participation in the council budgets and plans. However, these are minimum requirements and don't necessarily incorporate better practice principles for public participation. Compliance with statutory requirements does not automatically mean councils have engaged meaningfully with the public. We did identify 3 activities where councils had engaged meaningfully with the community on the budget process. The Ballarat City Council allowed the community to select which projects from an identified list were of greatest importance. Cardinia Shire Council asked residents to identify the most important priorities for the council, and Maribyrnong City Council ran a live Facebook question and answer page. Maribyrnong City Council received positive feedback from its live Facebook question and answer session. However, the other 2 activities were not evaluated. We've highlighted these and other examples in our report for other councils to look to. We looked at a wide range of council community projects and activities where public participation was evident. They included the construction of a playground, development of a new waste management system, and an arts and cultural feasibility study. These examples were mainly at the involve and collaborate levels of public participation. We saw a 2-way flow of information and the sharing of information within and between stakeholder communities during the decision-maker process. We found one example of empowering the community, which is level 5 on the spectrum. In this example, the community was given the opportunity to consult on and decide how a funding allocation would be spent. It is very positive to see public participation for community projects was being conducted at the involve, collaborate and empower end of the spectrum. We made 4 recommendations. 3 of those were aimed at councils and 1 was recommended to LGV to analyse public participation data and promulgate better practice public participation case studies, guidance and training. Overall, in closing, we found that councils generally do have strong public participation frameworks in place. They don't routinely apply these to public participation activities. In order to achieve the most benefit from public participation, councils need to plan activities better, be clear about their intended outcomes, and evaluate activities in order to improve future performance. Thank you.